Good afternoon. So in the interest of keeping more frequent streams, I thought I'd do another stream today on the US list of... so the US, from my understanding, made a statement that all US cryptos, or cryptos that are US based, would be capital gains tax free. So I have one very kind member of my group made a list from my massive list of those which are, and I think, I don't know, there's what, 20 or 30 here. So I thought, given I have like 600 to go through and I don't really have any strategy for how I go through them in any sort of formal order, I thought I'd have a quick look through them on stream, this sort of subset. But first, just a quick look at the others chart, because in general, obviously that determines whether or not we should buy in general. There's a few things here. So obviously we're approaching now the top of the range in the previous high from 2021. So it's generally not an ideal place to be looking at buying, except on lower time frames, and what we would hope is that we get some bigger dip from us to buy from. I have, as you can see, so I've got two alerts on this at the moment. One, there's a 3-week and a monthly demand right here, which you see on a lot of the alt charts, and a lot of them have hit already. And then down here, there's another, what's that? 1 week demand, but also there's a monthly in there. The few risks that I see here, I guess, so we've got obviously two options here. Either it's going to break out or it's going to die. When we look at the last breakout back here, you know, when we had a similar scenario, we're approaching the previous high, same as we've got here now. This obviously just crept up, and this is a weekly chart, so this took quite a long time to actually do the bigger breakout. But at the moment, we don't have any of those demands similar to what we have here. But notice, obviously, it didn't come back down and retest all the way down here. So it's possible this won't come back to where ideally I'd like it to retest. And also, obviously, it doesn't have to come back down into demand, and if it's impulsive, you actually don't want it to. You want it to sort of try and test and hold above the previous high. The second risk we've got is similar to the last Bitcoin video I had. If you watch that, this failed wave 113 to 127 area. So you can see here, so I marked this in just so you could see it, that if I measure this final wave here and do the extension on it, that this second push came up into the 113 before dying. And be aware also, you know, that while we can say, oh, we've got monthly demand here and that's good, here actually had a 3-month demand and it just went straight through it. So don't like rely 100% on those demands. Like, the whole point is that, so a 3-month demand or a monthly demand is good, but you want to see a significant move away from that demand. And this actually did have a reasonable move away, but it didn't break significantly above the previous high, hence why it's called a failed wave. And the issue we've got now is that sort of a similar scenario, that we've got this drawing a similar retracement of this lower wave, and it's come up a little bit higher than the previous one, but it's still in the 113 to 127 area. So it's still in a sort of a risk area for the potential that it might, you know, just form a similar, you know, this pattern here is actually quite similar. So I've got this move up, retracement, and then this distribution followed into a fall, and here we've got a move up, retracement. So here, you know, are we going to do similar, or are we going to start consolidating through here for a next push up? So I still think it's a risky area, and it's tentative. I don't think anybody can say for sure alt season has started, or it's going to happen from here. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but so provisionally. And then also the other issue we've got at the moment on the lower time frames there now is a lot of alts that you see, and you can see on here that we've now got a 5-day supply, which it hasn't quite tested. A lot of alts also now have a daily, and this is a week daily, but it's a daily thrown in there as well. It's weak because it hasn't closed below, even barely closed below the body, and hasn't closed below the wick of the previous candle. So it's not necessarily a zone I'd want to short, but it's also a zone I wouldn't want to long into. But if we do come back up from here, then we just need to be wary around this area where it potentially might reject and go back deeper. And there's a couple of undos there I didn't mean to. The other issue which I've seen on a lot of alts, and has made it slightly challenging, like trying to put entries on alts, is that we've got, you know, this is the daily chart. So in the 2-day chart, there's a 2-day demand. There's a 2-day demand which we've tapped for the second push and then gone back through it. On the daily, you know, there's multiple daily demands, and there's just all this chop that makes it, you know, and when you're looking for entries off demand, like you want to see, or supply, you want to see a significant move away from it, and a strong one. You don't really want to see chop, because that means, you know, when it comes back to it, it's not necessarily that strong and going to push away again very hard. And again, we're seeing that on alts are quite mixed actually. You're seeing some that have pushed quite hard off the zones that they've hit here, and others not. And also, like I say, some have come a lot deeper and they're down in this monthly area, and the others chart hasn't. So i.e. most alts haven't come that deep, but quite a few have come down here. What else? Yeah, so basically we're like I say, we're in, so the summary is we're in a risk area, so don't blindly go into alts thinking we're going to go to the moon. Obviously always manage your stops regardless, but those are the couple of things that I see on the bear side, these failed wave possibilities. And then, oh yeah, the other thing is, like I say, so while I've alerted this and I've alerted this, if we are going to make a lower high here, then it's also entirely possible that we come all the way down into this yearly. And this is something that I have seen commonly when we've failed to break out, that obviously, yes, while you have demand, and we're certainly going to get likely to get bounces in here in between unless there's some black swan, but if it hasn't properly hit demand on the previous test, then there's a fair chance it can come back and hit demand on the next try. So anyway, yeah, we can see what happens with alts when we hit that zone. We can see what happens with alts when we hit that zone, if we hit those zones, and or we can see if we start to make any structure here on, you know, start to make daily demands or 3-day demands, etc. Ideally weekly, similar to this, where we start to see this sort of slow chop and the build up before the breakout. If it breaks out, you know, if it just runs from here and goes straight up without you, then that it is what it is. But then obviously what you're looking for is this retest, you know, as it comes back into back test this zone or back test that high. So don't stress, you haven't missed it if it's gone. And frankly, like I say, there are so many alts now that if you see some go through, then you're likely to see, if you see some go through there, then you could just trade the others, because there'll be others to play and catch up. US dollar dominance again, like so, the difficulty on this is this possible double bottom. I actually would have liked this to go very slightly lower into there, and then I'd be more confident. We've got the 61 fib down there, this weekly zone. The other previous 6 months is 2 6 months stacked on top of each other here, but it is what it is. Now the risk here for bulls is that we've got this 5-day demand. You know, it on the lower time frames, it doesn't look like it tapped off it, but on the daily or the 3-day, I think the daily shows the same. You know, you can see it tapped into this 5-day demand, so it could continue to push from here. But obviously that'll mean the whole market's coming down, and it means Bitcoin, you know, if this US dollar dominance heads up into this sort of 2 weekly supply up here, or weekly supply, then obviously Bitcoin's going to do a significant drop as well and probably be testing back on the previous range. So just things to be a bit careful of for the bulls. This could still be, you know, just simply a stop hunt swing failure here and then continue the drop down. But it's early days, so it's hard to tell at this point with the new demand that's been put in. And also because it's Christmas, and so I looked at the last of the PA from previous couple of Christmases, and it's very much sideways. Yeah, I think here's December last year. It's very much sideways before it sort of pushed it a little bit in January and then came down heavily for the first quarter. So yeah, those are the sort of considerations, but then alts in isolation. So as I always say, we trade both directions, and from my perspective, we've had some really good short entries and some really good long entries. We're starting to see some of these long entries react now. Bonk hasn't quite hit there, but you know, Popcat's hit a monthly demand here. And the other thing is, so I'll show just on Popcat. So what I am doing, so this has consideration of broken trend line here as well, but monthly demand. So again, absolutely nothing wrong with going long off a monthly demand if your alt that you're interested in has hit that. I have and most of them, as I've said, have had this 5-day supply in here. PopCat also happens to have a weekly, a bit above. I have alerted these, but if it's coming from a high time frame demand and if these hold, this is not necessarily high probability. However, that doesn't mean it's not going to give you a scalp reaction. But there is the possibility, you know, if the market does suddenly go super strong, that this just goes straight up to the moon and runs straight through that, because it is coming off a monthly demand. But as you can see here, you know, we have lots of shorts into longs, into shorts into longs, and there's no reason you shouldn't trade both directions. You know, we could end up with a structure similar to this here. Exaggerated that a bit, you know, which still ends up in a higher low, but that doesn't mean that's not tradable as a short, potentially back down into a daily demand for then having the move higher. So as I say, if you're a trader, you're trading both directions. If you're a holder, then you should be just holding off these monthly zones and seeing what happens, and maybe DCAing if it comes deeper into the zone with your, you know, invalidation if it breaks that monthly zone. But for traders, nothing wrong with trading both directions. Let me just check what that text was. Nothing important. Oh, actually, that's a good point. I'm expecting a package delivery, so I might have to do a brief pause and runner if the doorbell goes, if I even hear it. Yeah, so anyway, onto the list. Well, which one should I use? Let's use this bonk one, because that was my working chart earlier. So similar to bonk from what I just showed on PopCat, it's very, very similar scenario. You know, we've got 2-week and monthly demand here, which I've got alerted. The wick hasn't quite hit it in this case, so it may or may not come back for it. And then it's got, in this case, it's got a 5-day supply and either a 4-day or a 3-day above it. I've alerted the more conservatively the 3-day above, but that doesn't mean it won't reject here. But again, it's just something to be conscious of. These monthlies could run straight through those zones, or these monthlies could reject and then it could go back deeper into the monthly, and you still don't know at this stage. Okay, so, oh, actually Ada shouldn't be on the list here. So the few I've removed from this list here, so I've removed already Link, Sol and XRP, and Ether obviously. And Ada I also want to remove from the list because, as you can see on this layout, I don't have any, I've got separate layouts for the new and old majors, so this is my alt layout, so I want to stick with the alt charts that don't form part of the majors, and just see what they're looking like. Okay, so let's begin with AKT. So the problem we have a little bit on the high time frames here is that once you start looking with the coins without a history, once you start looking at the higher time frames, excuse me, I'm trying to light on the cigarette, once you start looking at the high time frames, it's harder to see trend, because here, for example, obviously this is the 2-month chart, so we've got a 2-monthly demand all the way down here, and then if we look at the monthly, so we're in a monthly uptrend, but then we're coming out of a monthly downtrend here, and I don't know, like generally I try and choose the chart on TradingView with the most history, but I'm not sure if there's anything in Dex Screener or something that shows more of where this came from before it potentially was listed on the centralized exchanges. Did it come from up there, or did it come from down here? So you're just sort of judging the trend as best you can. But at the moment, obviously, we're in a monthly uptrend here. I'm going to take this alert out for now, but hopefully I'm back now. I don't know how I can check this. Let me just go on my iPad and see. Check I'm actually streaming now. I'm not sure what happened there. Literally, my whole computer just went blue screen of death, and it was gone. Search Elisa crypto. Where's the underscore? Underscore. Coming up with Elisa Pavira. I don't know who that is. Well, that was a bit of a fail, so hopefully I'm back, and hopefully this is running effectively now. And I don't know what happened. If anybody's in the chat, can you tell me? Oh, yeah. Steezy is talking to me. So yeah, it appears I am back, so that's good. Looks like a classic ICO dump to me on AKT. Oh, so it was previously listed on the DEX. Okay, so I was looking at AKT. Let's just go back to that, and I'll have to look at the stream again later to see. Hopefully, it's kept my my old. Hopefully, it's kept my the analysis I did on the alts a minute ago. US crypto. Okay, here's the list. As I said, I'm removing ADA because that's in my other list. Not sure you mean Steezy on a classic ICO dump. I mean, obviously, yeah, this could be an ICO dump, that's for sure. I'm not sure where it came from before that, though. That was kind of what I was saying when I got cut off. Okay, so I did get cut off a moment ago with the blue screen of death, and I did have a computer problem early this week, and Lenovo have been round to fix it. So hopefully that won't happen again, but it shouldn't have happened that time. So we will have to cross that bridge when we come to it. It hasn't happened since they fixed it, but that's not an ideal sign. If I'm running, maybe I'm running just too many things. So yeah, all I'm going to do on these anyway is just kind of have a look at them and see where they're at, and then just set some new alerts. So you'll be able to see where I set alerts if you're following those. So yeah, as I was saying on this, it's one of the ones that's going to be harder to judge because we are in a monthly supply here, but we don't know what happened before. And then we've got this monthly demand that we've bounced at the lows, but it's not a strong demand. So again, like if you followed my last stream, or I think my earlier comments as well, actually no, I don't put them in the earlier comments, some of these I just don't love where they've come from here. Okay, this one did come from a weekly demand, so that's not so bad. But when it's coming from a weekly demand and coming up into a monthly supply, then slightly more skeptical. But this monthly demand can't be considered strong unless we see it break monthly supply. So really what we would have wanted on this and on most alts is for this to go straight through there, and I think we'll see that on ALGO, and also then close above on the monthly. So the other issue we've got is that I'm doing this, you know, on the 23rd, we've got a week till the end of the month, yeah, we need to see a lot on these. You know, are they going to create 6 monthly demands, annual demands? So in this case, we're not going to get an annual unless it pumps in the next week and closes above this candle. No 6 month, no 3 month. But some of the alts are going to look like they're getting 6 month or 3 month demands. But here really we've just got a triangle structure. It's come from monthly supply and it's in monthly demand. And I did just delete the alert off down here, but actually I'm going to put that back now. So I'm going to put an alert down here for 1 week / 1 month demand, and I do just need to do one thing. I can't pull it off the screen. Oh well, I'll just do it publicly. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, that's a weekly demand down there and a monthly demand down there. So then thus if this does break down, it could pick up support here. I don't generally alert the same thing twice unless I think it's got I've got a really good reason to. So this weekly demand again, you know, we were looking for, you know, if this had broken up here and taken out that high, then it's possible this weekly demand's going to hold again on a retest. You know, you still wouldn't want it to come that deep, but it's much higher probability. But given this weekly demand hasn't at this point managed to break this monthly supply, I wouldn't want to buy a retest. There is a possibility, you know, it takes out the lows and we get a swing failure in here. So that's something you can look for if you are watching that. Yeah, so I guess we'll see on this. So it's already hit the monthly. There is a weekly inside, so it can still come deeper into here. Do I want to set an alert for deeper on this? No. So again, like some of these, I'm resetting the alert for deeper even if it hasn't quite hit the monthly. But on something like this, I'm less comfortable with doing that because of the fact it hasn't broken monthly supply up here. Additionally, we've got a new 5-day supply in there, so I'll alert that for a possible short entry if it comes back there. 5-day supply. So yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, let me show you, where are we? Oh, music's just come on, but turn that off before YouTube gets me for copyright. So Alt-TA, so this is my Telegram alt channel, and so all of these alerts come through into my Telegram alt channel. So anyone who's not in my premium group, like, yeah, you'll see it if you go into the FX channel, you'll see the equivalent from the FX charts, and it tells you everything. This is hitting, atoms hitting a 4-day, then 2-week, 1 month demand, but it's also, and sometimes I put a comment saying where it's coming from, i.e. that would be saying coming from 6 month supply is somewhat more risky taking along in that zone, but it doesn't mean you're not going to get a bounce. So all these alerts come into the alt channel in the premium group, so people can then choose to take them or not take them at their leisure. So this 5 days, it's still considered, it would be reasonably high risk. Essentially this is just a triangle now, because we're coming from monthly demand, but I want to see the reactions on these zones. So this coming from monthly demand, then we do probably expect that to go at least up here, but I want to see some of the reactions, so I'm setting the alerts regardless. And what I tend to find with the alerts, is it either will pause here, and what you want to see is a pause here, and then if it's going to work, it's going to give you entries on the 1 hour, on the 4 hour, etc. Or if it's not going to work, the chances are, given it's crypto, it's going to throw a giant candle straight through it, and it's not going to give anybody an opportunity to enter and get stopped out anyway. So yeah, it's just something to be aware of. Okay, then also we've got a 3-day in here, a little bit higher. So I don't love it when I have this kind of structure either. I'll go into a little bit more detail on this than I will on the others, I think, but I don't love it when I see things like that, because you can see the 3-day hasn't been quite tapped by that candle, so then it becomes a bit more, is it going to reject here, or is it going to try and stop hunt this zone and go into the 3-day up here? But given that's at a previous level of support, based on these candles, that's an okay place to start looking for shorts. But yeah, so AKT, monthly supply, monthly demand, really can't say much more than that. It's going to triangle, and then we're just going to have to see what type of consolidation we have through here, or if this just breaks down and we go straight down into here. ALGO, one of the crazy stronger ones, and I had an alert there on what's that going to be, 4-day, probably 4-day or 5-day demand there, and there's now also 4-day, 5-day supply. So okay, so ALGO again is one of the tougher ones, because let's just hide everything off this so you can see. So it has got an annual supply here, but again, like, it's based on, we don't know what happened here. So is this really an annual supply? Not sure, but I always alert them, and we actually do quite often get reactions off them as well. What I just pressed there, I think we're going to do it. This is very possibly going to create, so I'm actually going to start drawing in some of these 6-month demands, which I've already told the group I'm going to do, because I'm not going to have time to do everything in the next week at the end of the year, so we just have to pray things aren't going to dump in the interim. But yeah, so we are going to potentially create a 6-month demand on this in that candle, so this is going to be a decent entry. Looking at the top of that, it's a big zone, so the challenge also with the 6 months and the 3 months and even the monthlies is that they're enormous. So while I can alert the top of this, and in fact it might even hold higher on the top of the 3 month here, the difficulty on this is, are we going to get this bounce off the top here where the 6 month level is, or is it going to come all the way back down and retrace this entire up move? So again, if it was super strong, then we would expect for it to bounce higher, and maybe this is the low already put in, I don't know. And also from an impulsive Elliott wave perspective, then we don't want it to break back. It's allowed to break back below here on a wick, which is what it's done, but we don't really want to see it retrace into this wave, because then it becomes like more of a corrective wave rather than an impulsive wave. And for example, you can see similar here that it's it's broken out, and this retest just comes back into the top of that wave. It doesn't come all the way down into demand down here, and then it starts to do the bigger move down and breaks down the demand anyway. So from this perspective, and again, it's not really in a significant supply for looking at, just like I did have a short entry there, or a short alert there. So let's just look at the lower time frames and see what we've got. 3 week, 2 week. Okay, so, and so a lot of people accuse me of being bearish. So if now, for example, I put an alert down here, I'll get accused of being very, very bearish. But when I put an alert, it doesn't necessarily mean I think it's coming all the way back there. It just means if it comes back there, then I expect a reaction. So hence I put an alert, because we're looking for that reaction. So, you know, and even here, you know, people would probably have said here, oh no, we're going to break out, it's never going to come back here, but eventually it does retrace to the start of the wave, you know, and that does commonly happen. So while it might take a year to do that, I have an array of alerts on the charts, because that means we've always got things to trade, and there's always things hitting, virtually always, except for the last couple of days where we've had such a big move that I had so many alerts hit. That's in the wrong place, it should be under this candle. Okay, so here we've got potentially a 6-month demand here, so I'm going to actually alert that as the new alert. So when an alert comes in and hit as well, the other thing is, so you'll see sometimes, you know, that I've got, particularly in scenarios like this, on some of them, when we've got like ADA, if you looked at that, you know, I've got short, 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 because what I tend to do, you'll see here, is, you know, it hits a zone, and if I don't have time to analyze it, I generally just put in another alert at whatever the next supply is, and then if people want to trade them, that's what they can do. And again, it just means you've always got things to trade, but it doesn't necessarily mean I've analysed it, which is why I always expect everybody to do their own analysis. So down here, I think it's worth watching. 6-month demand, and let me just check that. So we've got a 5-day and 4-day supply above now, probably a 3-day as well. ALGO. The other thing with some of these ones, these bigger history coins, is it's worth looking at the BTC pair. So I won't do that now, because that's going to make this video far too long, and I can already feel that I'm not going to get through the whole list unless I stop talking, which I might stop talking actually. So another alert in there. Yeah, so it's always worth looking at the BTC pairs as well, because so if you've got if you're unsure, or if you've got a few zones, so for example here, like the weekly supply is fine, it's kind of just below the point of breakdown, but you know, if you're not sure if this is going to be the top, such that, you know, should you enter looking for a lower high here, if you look at the BTC pair, and the BTC pair has confluence with that also having hit supply, then it's worth looking for the lower high and for the short entry. If the BTC pair is still floating in the middle of nowhere and hasn't hit a supply at the high, then maybe you'd consider that this is going to go higher to the next zone above. And you know, and for me, like, this is looking relatively strong, as in it hasn't retraced down into these lower zones. You know, it's come off the immediate zone, therefore supply isn't as strong. You know, I would like to have seen this break some demand in order to be more confident shorting supply. So at this point, I'm not going to put in a 5-day supply entry on this. Delete that one. And then this one, so this is 6-month demand, and then I'm going to put 1-day demand at the level, and stacked 1-day demands below, and check balance on the level that could run deeper monthly at base. So it's just some comments in there so people know what to look for. So what you would look for, because you don't, and again, it just depends whether you're a trader or an investor, and I know most of my group and the people who are following these alerts are traders, not investors. But if you're an investor, you might say, and that, you know, if this 6-month confirms, then you might say, well, you know, you'll enter here, you know, we have 5, 6, however many entries throughout with your invalidation beneath the 6-month demand all the way down here. And you'll happily, if you believe in ALGO as an investor, enter multiple times in that zone. You know, and maybe it'll just bounce in the middle of the zone and you'll only get 3 or 4 of your entries, but at least you've got multiple entries in there. If you're a trader, you probably don't want to do that. And what you would do is just wait for price to come into this area, and then you're looking for some sort of structure, bounce there, taking out the low, retest, and move up. And there's sort of that, you know, the break, hits supply, takes out the low, breaks supply, and then has a new demand for your entry. That's kind of generally what I'm looking for on the lower time frames when I enter. And what time frame you do that on is debatable, you know, like it's a 6-month demand. So yes, you could then feasibly, if you think it's going to bounce off the top and go to the moon, you could have a very tight stop with your profit target all the way up here somewhere if you think that 6 months going to play out. But then that's why I leave it up to whoever, what is meant by US approved. SHIBAT, US approved is, I think Donald Trump said that for all the US based cryptos, they wouldn't be having to pay capital gains tax, was my understanding. I probably need to research that more myself because somebody just told me that. I'm just trusting that somebody's telling me the truth. But I've heard it from a couple of sources. Yeah, so that's why one of my group made me this list, because it was the ones that potentially US people are going to be more inclined to buy because they're not going to have to pay capital gains tax on their gains. So yeah, anyway, I digress. So yes, there are obviously various ways to trade this, and you know, it's something I keep meaning to do a second video about, but I never get around to. But you know, you could just trade. So like I say, you could follow that structure that I just drew out, something like that. You know, or look at patterns. You know, there's, you know, it can come into here and it can make a trend line. Draw this really badly. You know, if it makes you a trend line, then you could enter based on the trend line break. You can enter purely based on this daily demand if you want, you know, with your stop under daily demand. But you need to be a bit careful when you start doing things like that, because in this case, you know, it's got a daily demand there. Actually, on the 2-day, it's got a 2-day demand, and then it's got a daily demand immediately underneath. So you don't want to get caught entering on the 2-day with your stop just below the 2-day, and in fact, there's another daily right there. So, you know, obviously this can wick down deeper if it wants to. So it just depends on the structure and on how you choose to trade, how much time you've got to dedicate as well, whether you've got time to watch these things. You know, you could enter here and put your stop halfway down here if you want, and just take very low risk to reward and go to the beach. You know, it's entirely up to you. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, that's basically the crux of this. We're still holding a structure here, so thus I don't want to put shorts in for a lower high as yet. That would be, you know, the 3-month up there would be my next level of interest if we do move higher. The other thing I should say as well, actually, which I haven't gone into, the other thing that you can do on these big runs that we've had on a lot of these alts is just fib them. So put your fib zone in, you know, and you may decide that this is just too aggressive to enter here now. This 61's decent, which I'm probably on the log chart, so you need to look at where the log and the linear is. So in fact, that's the 61 on the linear chart, so that's decent. 70 is a good area, so between the 61 and the 78, so any of these entries in here are good on the higher time frame. But yeah, so you're looking for the retracement to come down into the golden fib zone, ideally on the linear chart, but sometimes the log will work as well, to re-enter. And then, yeah, so then, and in this case, you know, if this creates a daily demand, then potentially you've got a new entry. So then once you've got that first entry, then you want to try and add to it. So you're looking then for what's, you know, where's the next supply? Where's the structure break? Have we made new demand? You know, if this makes a new daily demand today, that's another possible entry. It's not looking particularly strong as yet, but if this closes a strong green candle up here, then you could look to enter on a retest of this daily zone. So that's ALGO, APT, something I haven't updated for a while. So let's remove some of this stuff. So you can see in this case it did have a monthly supply, the one I just deleted, and it's come straight through it. you know, some of them just respond and work better with supply and demand. That's the other thing I like doing, why I leave my crosses on the charts, because I like to see, you know, how well things have worked in the past. You know, I can see when I apparently have done crazy things like longing tops up here. But again, like I say, bear in mind that I don't know, you know, when I'm putting a lot of these alerts in, I don't know where the rest of the market is, and what, you know, what Bitcoin's doing. So this obviously I would have put in on a 3-day demand. Obviously it didn't work, you know, at some point it's got to reverse, at some point it's going to fail. So on this chart, what have we got on the 6 months? So this is on the cusp of maybe creating a 6 month, but it's going to be tentative, so I'm not going to obviously put that in as an alert because it's at current price. So this may or may not. So what I really didn't want to see on these alts was things taking such a dive in the last week of December, because it would have been really nice to have these close really strong and create all these new 6 month demands. And like I say, ALGO is looking okay on that front. Something like this is looking slightly less okay. So it's coming off a monthly demand at the low. So again, what I'm looking at here is we made a monthly demand, we had a big move off it, it's come back and retested it. It's been unable, on that test, it's been unable to break the previous high. So thus when it comes back, you can look at longs on these demands, but you expect it to come low, which so ultimately, so obviously I've had an alert there, or there's possible. The other thing with these alerts is it's possible I placed the alert when price was here. In fact, it's very likely in this case. And thus, obviously I can't keep on top of updating everything all the time. So something like this, when it comes back to here, you need to use your judgment and kind of go, well, it's just hit this alert, but there's now a new weekly supply, or actually monthly supply in this case, right above. You probably wouldn't want to enter there. So anyway, this is following what you'd expect of structure. This bounce on monthly demands, unable to break the high, so you expect it to take out that demand, that low, which it has. In this case, it's pretty good because it's taken an annual swing failure. But again, you really would have wanted this to make a move to do a significant breakout now, which it hasn't. It has broken a monthly supply, which is good, a weak monthly supply in the middle there. But again, it's still in that just kind of triangle that we're seeing from a lot of these alts on the higher time frames. And in this case, we've got a 3-week down here. Three-week demand there, which hasn't been tested. So it's just choppy, and I'm not liking the chop, because if there's chop and it makes it unclear for me to where to place entries or alerts for demands, then there's a fair chance that if it's not clear to me, then it's not clear to anybody, and then people don't trade it, and thus your zones then become markedly less high probability. So this might end up being one that I'm not gonna. Yeah, so it's got a 3-week untested here, but it's tested the 2-week just above, and there's no weekly in there, and it does have a 5-day. So this is something, given this doesn't have a monthly demand, while I don't love where the high is, this is something I'd be more inclined to look at a short on this 5-day supply. And maybe it can come down into here. So again, we've got the swing failure here that's good, and if you have a swing failure here, then you expect a swing failure of the high. So yeah, I guess I probably am more bullish on this, but that doesn't obviously mean you're not going to get a retest lower. Let's put a fib on that and see what that gives me. So that does give me around the 3-week level. So on the basis of the swing failure of the low, I do think it's worth a possible long. Oops. Drag one of my old crosses over, a possible long entry here. Yeah, there's just, like I say, there's always lots of considerations and probabilities. So again, you know, like here, we've got a range, you know, it's going up and down within the range, you know, and it's, so while I do feel like this could go higher due to that swing failure on the low, it's, you know, it's really just running in a range. And do I want to, so the question now is then, do I want to long when we're not at the bottom of the range? You know, this came all the way down to the bottom of the range, so is this going to come down, you know, or even down lower, or break down? I mean, if I just can't assume a breakdown, but I might put an alert down there. Let me have a look at the 4-day quickly. So yeah, the 4-day is slightly higher. So I might look at potentially, because we've got this gap here and this move up, and there's not much at that 3-week level, I think I'd be more inclined to put the alert a little bit lower. So on this 4-day demand inside 3-week. Can't type. And then, as I say, there's a 4-day, 5-day supply there. It's a bit of a large one, so sometimes I give consideration to, is it going to be worth the risk to reward? Because if this comes back here and you trade that blindly with your stop above the 5-day, with all this demand here, is it really going to be worth the risk to reward? Even if it did go, let's have a look, short position, so if you entered your short there with your stop here, even if it did go all the way down to here, and and like I say, it might bounce higher, you're only getting 1.33 risk to reward, so it's probably not worth it. So that's actually not one I'm going to put a short entry on for that reason. But what I will do is actually put an alert on for a breakout. So oh, I already have an alert on there for a breakout. Let me put a cross there so I know I've done that. So yeah, I put these alerts for all-time highs, which just says all-time high, because what you're looking for then, again, it's the same as I drew on the flip side on the ALGO chart. You're either looking for it to come up and take out all-time high and then break down, or you're looking for the breakout, the retest, and then you can enter for the bigger move up, and in this case, where there's no supply. But while prices are kind of here, like I said, at this point you don't really want to be looking for longs, you want to wait for it to retrace. But anyway, yeah, this one isn't overly clear, so I'm going to leave that alone for now. ARB. I did get asked about ARB, and I think I threw in these supply entries. Okay, so this is going to create an annual supply up here. A slightly dubious annual supply, and I always say dubious again because it's off, it's a Bybit chart, but it's off the first candle of the Bybit chart, and while I do, like I say, try and choose the chart with the most history on TradingView, if there is history that comes before, then that may not necessarily be an accurate candle of, it's the open of that year. What's that year? So it's the candle open of January 2023, but there's nothing in January 2022, so I don't know if that really is the open of January 2023 or something in the middle of the year. It's much more likely to be something in the middle of the year. Yeah, in fact, because the 6 month is lower. So actually I'm going to take that out again. So yeah, what we've had here is a 6 month supply. It's not a strong supply because this candle hasn't closed below the low of the green candle. But certainly not a supply that you would want to be longing into, and we've had a decent, so obviously I had two alerts on this. So I had an alert for the monthly supply in here, and I would have said there's a 6 monthly inside it, and it's come up, so it's come up higher into the 6 monthly supply. And then I've already got an alert on this, there's 2 week, 3 week and 1 month demand, but I said careful if it hits 6 month supply first. So this is definitely not something I would want to long, in fact, because it has hit 6 month supply first. So again, I'll leave the alert because it can potentially give a scalp. And you can see here that it's come off. What have we got there? There's a 5 day a bit lower. 4 day, so it's come off a 4 day, 3 day, 4 day inside. But this is something I'd be much more inclined to look for a short on a retest because it's hit 6 month supply. And like I say, it is 6 month supply, but it can go much higher in the supply. It's a big zone. The monthly supply it's gone almost to the top of, and things to be aware of. And I'm pointing all these things out because obviously everything has probabilities. We do have equal highs here, so it is possible that this one's going to come back and take out those equal highs and go higher inside the zone. But if it's a 6 month supply, then I absolutely want to be looking for the lower high on the retest. So we have a 5 day supply in there, 4 day a little bit higher inside it. But yeah, this is something that's a much higher probability for a short entry on a retest, because of the 6 month supply above. I'm going to write a comment in the chat saying the answer to that question, in case whoever was watching is looking for the answer but doesn't listen to the right point in the video. So what is meant by US improved? Those US based cryptos which aren't going to have capital gains tax, as tax for US citizens. Okay, yeah, so what else? As I've said, yeah, so okay, so I'm putting the 5-day supply in here. Again, on the flip side of this, and the in a perfect world, this would have broken demand to make that even higher probability. So there's probabilities, so the probability is hitting the 6 month supply, we should certainly look for a lower high. We already have a lower high there, but for another lower high to take us then deeper into demand, and or to break demand or break down entirely. In a perfect world, for it to be a high probability supply, you also want it to have broken demand, which in this case it hasn't. So that reduces the probability somewhat. But it's still something worth considering. So that's that, and yeah, and then this long entry is not that high probability. I'll leave it in there, but because firstly, because we've already had the bounce. Like if this drop had come straight down into there, that would have been better probability. Now it's bounced a bit higher, it's depleted some of that demand, and there is a bit of a chop through here. So this is not necessarily particularly high probability because of the fact it's coming from 6 month supply. But that doesn't mean it's not going to give you a bounce that's tradable or scalpable. Okay, moving on to AVAX. Again, there's also a giant range on this. Didn't come down. So this is one of those funny ones. Like some of them are funny, they just don't go into demand properly. And that's also why I say look at the BTC chart, because sometimes you'll see why this has happened if you look at the BTC chart, because the BTC chart will be in a much more significant demand. So I'm just watching Bitcoin trying to come down again out of the corner of my eye. And you know, here, let's be transparent, is one of my screw ups here. Sometimes I kind of just get more focused on them and you know, looking for breakouts in here. So I was just trying to give scalps on the low time frame through here. I think, you know, it was okay, so indirect resistance here, but there wasn't any direct supply in here, or at least not on the higher time frames. So therefore I was looking for this to move up into there. But again, if the market timing isn't right, and Bitcoin must have been coming down at that point. But I can see from this chart, this isn't an ideal one, you know, even here, you know, the low hasn't come back down into demand. So it's not one that's particularly nice to trade from a supply and demand perspective, and some will be better than others. You know, it's just front run my entry up there. You know, we did give a long in here and a short in there and a long in there. So those last 3 entries are decent, but these ones over here mostly aren't ideal. The shorts are better. Those 2 shorts are decent, but the long's not great. So it does make a difference in what direction overall you think the market is going in, and also the probabilities. And I won't get back into each of the individual probabilities on those. But I think at this point I was really hoping for that push up into the monthly supply, which I think a lot of the other alts were giving at the time, but AVAX then obviously didn't. So let's have a look at what the year is going to give us. So this has given us a bounce off the 3 month at the low. Year's not giving us 6 month May. So I'm going to have to go through these again. I can say I'm going to have to go through the whole list at the end of the year anyway, and just mark in all the 6 month and annual and 3 month, 2 month, 1 month, all of the new supplies and demand. So this may or may not create 6 month demand, depending on if it closes above that level in the next couple of weeks. Does have a monthly demand in there already, which I've already got alerted. And this is one of the ones that I've alluded to before, so it's got those trend line stops. But it has come off, because it's come off the 3 month at the lows, I certainly think this is worth looking for that long re-entry in there. It also hasn't quite hit, well okay, so it's hit this sort of indirect monthly level there, that's where it topped out. Didn't quite get up into my monthly supply, a little bit higher on that. But yeah, this is something that I would definitely look at as a possible entry if we can get a drop down into this 3-week, 1 month demand area down here. And yeah, like I say, I've alluded to, I think in my Bitcoin video, I talked about these trendline stops, which aren't ideal under here because some of these I can see potentially coming back for a retest in here. Obviously, if it comes deeper, we've got a weekly all the way down there. But this is something that I would potentially, if this fails, I think still continue to look for a possible re-entry on a second test of this 3-month level in here. Okay, so it's gone through. There was a 5-day supply in there, which it has gone through, and also has 5-day supply above. And so let me think about this one. Something I want to alert. 5-day. So I was just looking to see if this wick had taken out that wick, which it hasn't. So it's a 5 days, 4-day supply overarchingly. At the moment it's holding a 4-day demand here. So, and there's a 4-day also inside that zone there. So this, yeah, I would quite like to see potentially this go up to test here and come back down to test in this zone. I'm out of cigarettes now, they're downstairs, so I'll smoke my last half that I have remaining up in the office. So what have we got here? So we've got a bounce on the 3-month demand, and again it's come up to the high, but we really want to see it take out this high to show that that 3-month demand has strength, and also for this monthly to have strength. So again, it's sort of forming that triangle structure, which I don't love. But you know, having said that, you know, you look over here, and I could have said the same here. You know, that it's made a lower high in there. You know, is that just going to be a double top and come down? But then it did push up for the breakout afterwards, and again didn't come off. I mean, maybe there was a 3-month demand in there or something that wick hit that it's subsequently broken over here. But feel like this is. No, this is actually not a supply I want to short. So again, what I'm seeing here is that while it's a kind of a clean 5-day supply, it's had a decent length move away from it. There's kind of the wicks are pretty close together, so arguably it's kind of sort of tested on that level. It hasn't broken the immediate demand, but mainly like I would have liked this to hit the monthly. I would have liked to see this swing fail into the monthly to be more confident of looking for shorts. I don't love where this high is at. So I might like leave that one weighted out and see if it's going to give the move up into here, either off this 4-day or potentially off this monthly if it comes deeper. Comp, another very similar looking chart. Delete some of this crap off it. Okay, so what do we have here? I'll use it again. And yeah, this chart is actually a better example of why I'm quite anti saying alt season like a lot of people, and I've said this a few times historically as well, that charts which fell like this and created annual or 6-month supplies above, I'd be much more likely to say that maybe these are the coins are going to die forever. So I do think they're not the ones you want to be looking at long-term holds on. And I might be wrong, but it just means what it's basically saying is this is less high probability. You've got a year's worth of people, or in fact, so if you count all these candles, you've got 3 or 4 years worth of people that bought above $150 comp. So therefore, if the price gets back here, then you expect it. You know, those people are going to be so relieved to get out of break even. They've been holding for like 4 years. Or they've really been holding for more years. Actually, I'm looking at the 6-month chart, so excuse me. So there's 2 years worth of people and 2 and a bit years worth of people that bought above 150. they've now spent 3 years underwater. So if price comes back anywhere near where their entry is, these people are going to be wanting to escape at break even. And again, you can see that on the this is actually rejected, you know, 3 month level just below. Add some of these levels in while we're here. So that's coming back to the 3 month, potentially a new 3 months. So this might make a new 6 month demand in here, but I don't like the structure of it at all. 2 months is the top there. 1 month. So I gave a really nice short entry there. And then as a monthly demand potentially here. This isn't really a chart I like very much at all, I have to say. Could hold the 6 month if it comes back here. But again, with all this supply above, like I say, there's all these people that bought, you know, all these bounces, every single bounce here, you know, for the higher low here, there's, you know, there's a whole bunch of people that bought through there. And yeah, unless these people are like comp maximalists, they're going to be wanting to get out of break even. So if this does come back here, I'm going to set another low immediately above for that annual level. I think we'll get to, I think renders might be one of the ones later, because I know we had something hit. I had a few things hit 1 year supplies on this current run, so I want to see how they've reacted. And you know, again, as always, things can come higher into the zones. You know, there's monthly supply up there. You know, maybe people don't want to get out here. Maybe they're happy to. You know, maybe there's somebody who is a bigger whale that got trapped all the way up here, and wants to. It's going to push price all the way back up there, so he can get out at break even. You know, you don't know what's going to happen, particularly with the low liquidity coins. I'll put a monthly demand on this, just because it's got the 6 monthly, but I don't really like the structure. I don't like those equal lows. Actually, it's kind of semi-equal lows. That last candle did take out the low, and then thus we've taken out the high here. But again, you know, this is the other sort of structure we're commonly seeing on alts. You know, that yes, you know, we had a monthly supply here which got a reaction but didn't make a lower low. So obviously we come in. You know, this one had already been tested, so we come higher. The swing fail here and the swing fail there means it's likely we'll take out that high, which is obviously what we did. But again, this is not a strong close. It's not looking currently like a strong close on the monthly. So again, it's just a local range, and it's just a bearish retest of this monthly supply. You know, none of these supplies in here, all the monthlies that have been made in here, are strong. This is the strong one. That's where price really moved down significantly from that zone. So thus that's a decent short entry. And this short entry, the target of, if it entered that on the monthly, on the short entry, the target is down here. Even if it takes 3 years to do it, that is the target. So I can put the 1 month demand, just because it might give a scalp. But it's not a high probability entry. And so anyone who's using this, like obviously I'm trying to do this video slightly educationally as well, but anyone who's using this, you know, that's what you're looking at, you know, all the time. Like when I'm, you know, so I'm putting the alerts, I put them in very, very quickly for the most part. I'm being a lot slower now because I'm doing a video. But, you know, I'm looking at the moves down. So these are your 5 waves down, basically. So yes, we could get a retracement up to the 61 fib, which may be around there inside this. But any supply, you know, but all of this is applicable to the lower time frames as well. So yes, I'm looking at it on monthly, but you should be looking at exactly the same things. You know, what are the waves within the waves within the waves? You know, that's your last strong supply, because that's the one that had the significant breakdown. Does that mean, you know, if it makes a monthly supply here, which it did, you can't short it like it did there? You can, but it won't necessarily, and your target would be taking out the low, and in this case it did, but it won't necessarily do that. Same as what you saw here, you know, there's a monthly supply in here, did reject it, but didn't take out that low, because now structure obviously has started to move much more sideways here. But overarchingly, this is the one this is the important one. Anything else within here is a scalp within the internal range. So unless we see this broken, and then like I say, even on the higher time frame, you've got the annual one to contend with, which is the much bigger picture. But unless you start to see that broken, longs aren't high probability. And yeah, these three lows make me slightly concerned here, because that while that third one has just taken out the low, and thus you can long demand, you don't really want to be long in demand after it's gone all the way up. You know, if this gave you a long entry on that monthly demand, you really would have wanted that to be immediate, not after it's taken out the high and swing failed potentially at the high. The other thing we have here is a 3-week which was already tested. And the other thing which I haven't really back tested enough either is you know, is if you see the tests on lower time frames. So like you can see this monthly here, if we look at the 3-week chart, it's already been tested, that area, but it hasn't been tested since it's been a monthly. And I just don't know, again, if that makes it less probability if it does come back. And again, some of these alerts I set on that basis. I'm like, I want to see what this does when it comes here. And if it fails, and a lot of them I'll look at myself and analyze just for my own learning. If this fails, like, why did it fail? Okay, weekly, 5-day. So again, this is similar to, I can't remember now which one it was, but ARB, was it? Yeah, I think it was ARB. Because of this hit on monthly supply up here, this is something I would look at for the entry on the retest. So I'll leave that annual supply up there anyway, but I also want to alert 5-day here. I feel my voice starting to go already. Not great. So 5-day supply in there, 4-day. So again, it's similar to all the others already. This has hit the 4-day. There's another 4-day here. 4-day inside that. 4-day there. So, you know, it's still a reasonably large zone here, so you'd still want to see what the structure it gave you inside it. But at least here, that you would expect, if it hits here and does reject, then you would expect it to come down into this lower zone. Keep getting these text messages. Obviously, I never get text messages normally, but then obviously because I'm on a stream, I'm getting text messages. And I say text, I mean text, like not even WhatsApp. Anyway, so that's comp. Still very bearish in structure, but you know, it is building. But building when you're under annual supply just makes it quite challenging. So I know a lot of people would look at this, and you know, I've seen a lot of other influencers and things look at these, and you know, this is why everybody's been like full on about alt season, is because they're looking at this as, you know, a giant kind of accumulation range, and that this is just going to break up and go to the moon, and it might. But for me, I think there's a real lack of consideration being given to this, and in fact, I know whenever I have these doubts that I'm being too bearish when everybody else is being super bullish, I do tend to be right, you know, so I should really remember that, that I'm kind of like, while I'm sort of going to myself in my head or in the premium group, you know, why is everybody so bullish, you know, everything's just coming into supply, you know, here we've actually got my trend line on that as well. Why is everybody so bullish when this is literally heading right into supply? And I tend to find, yep, okay, it's rejected 5 minutes later. So this, you know, looking down here, you know, again, this is, for me, this is a very corrective move. This is quite a strong impulsive move, but the overall move is still quite corrective. You know, so far, you know, it had a strong impulsive move there, retraced a lot of it. This one then didn't break out much above the high. It's retraced all of it. This happens because I left my computer on downstairs as well. Then we've had another strong move, but are we just going to retrace all of it again? You know, it's a strong move up, sure, but it has barely broken that high, same as this one barely broke this high. So, you know, my instinct on this is that we're going to see lower. And if I'm wrong, you know, if it does move up in there, then it moves up in there without me. But it's not something I'm looking for longs on right now. CRV, okay, this has come up a lot higher inside the supply. Let's see what I can delete off this. Delete some of these zones it's run through. The only problem again with doing these streams is that I would normally take a lot more time finding out why I thought it had run through those zones, rather than just deleting them. But it is what it is. Okay, so CRV, which I know is Credible Crypto's baby. So again, for me, oops, just delete random things by mistake. Okay, so this has an annual supply in here, but it's not a strong one because again, it's just wicked below the low. So you know, if we looked at the annual perspective, and if you're somebody who trades swing failures, you could say, well, it's wicked and taken out all the lows here. Thus, the next target is taking out all the highs up here. If you're that kind of trader, which I am not, I think that's a lot more applicable in FX. But also, I think that you can't forget the fact that that while you may think that at the lows, that's fine, but arguably it's already played out. It's already wicked up here twice, taken out all the highs and taken out the lows. So maybe that trade is just over. It doesn't mean because it's taken out the lows, it's going to take out all the highs for the second time. And again, like I say, there's all those people that are stuck in, that went long, particularly around these levels in here, that are going to potentially want to get out again. So this may create a 6 month. Not a great one because it's slightly indirect, it's offset, because there's 2 candles. 3 month, take that out. So at this point we're in 3 month supply, and it's a very choppy 3 month supply, so you can see obviously it's had multiple candles, and then it did have a strong move away from it eventually, but it took quite a long time to do that. This is something also that I might look at having a more of an SR level in. So this is on the 3 months. You can see this is quite a clear SR level. Has broken trend line there. So 2 months, quite a messy chart here. And monthly. So in this case, it has run through a monthly, and obviously has run through and run up into this 3 month supply, but it is still in a 3 month supply. It's not terribly surprising it's broken the trend line and taken out these stops, because you can see it had a real trail of stops there. Also something you should be aware of, when you're looking in zones, and rather than blindly trading a 3 month zone like this, like look inside it, look at the lower time frames, see if you see trend lines like this, because then you think, oh, okay, it might go and take out those stops. So it's gone all the way up to take out the stops here, which is the entire move down from that level, but it hasn't fully taken out this 3 month supply. But it's also, obviously, it's one of the stronger ones, so that's an interesting thing to look at. I've already got an alert down here for the 1 month demand. It's coming from 6 month supply, have I missed that? Oh, obviously it's coming from the annual supply. I think, yeah, obviously I had a short entry on that monthly, and I didn't update it, I think, because of all this chop through here. I thought it could go higher, and that's why I got the cross up there, although I don't have an alert on that at the moment. So swing fail here makes me, again, also another one I'm inclined to look for a lower high on. This is not if it confirms now, that obviously has confirmed. So we've got a 1 month demand down here, which obviously is nowhere near, and it may not come back there. If this is strong, and if this is just it taking off. There's no 5 day supply on that either. Just wondering if this is getting a bit of a pumping from Credible Crypto. Move that up slightly. So just purely because of the chop. So yeah, I'm saying it's a 1 month demand, but there's also like the 2 week in there, and then this 4 day just above. So I like the alert to go just before, just in case it wants to slightly front run me. We do have a 3 day here. And we've got a 3-day supply here. A little bit tentative on this, but I am inclined to put a short entry there because it's swing failed here but still holding the 3-month supply. And then when I go down to the low time frames, the other thing I like to look at is, you know, what is the actual supply that caused this breakdown in the first place? If you're looking at the lower time frames, so there's a 3-day in here, that's the real sort of true supply, and it's created this large 3-month zone, and you can get the reaction of the 3-month zone, but the secondary and the stronger supply is always the one that kind of caused that zone to start. So you can see this has come all the way up into that 3-day. And there's a lot of confluence in here, a little 3-day a little bit higher inside that, but there's a lot of confluence through here. So I am going to put a 3-day supply entry on this. Alert, should I say, not entry. So yeah, I'll look for a lower high. This is one I will look for a lower high. The only thing I don't love about it is that this, if you look a bit closer, this candle here is wicked up into it. And also here, maybe it's flipped. Yeah, okay, so there's a daily demand there which it hasn't quite tapped. But it might be trying to use that 3-month level as like an SR level. But it's a strong enough that move down from that zone that makes me quite happy with potentially looking for a short when it retests that zone. And then, you know, will it go all the way back down here? Don't know, possibly not. Even more likely not if it can pick up to this 3-month, because that's quite a clean 3-month level, and it coincides with this 3-day that could well pick up support there in sort of an inverse head and shoulders type pattern. Let me see what the fib is saying. So on the linear scale, that'll be the 70 fib, that 3-day. I think it's worth an alert on this 3-day as well. Actually, I'm going to just take that one off the bottom because I can't afford to waste alerts. Okay, so I've got new alerts on this, the 3-day here and then the 3-day supply above. And I quite like 3 days as well. I think 3 days tend to be quite reliable. But yeah, so we're looking for that lower high retest up here. Although it still possibly could go out and take out these highs because there's equal highs up there as well. But it's all probabilities. Another interesting looking but bearish chart. High time frame bearish. So that looks like it is going to create an annual supply in there. So take things off so you can see. So at the moment it's looking like it's going to close below here. It's going to create an annual supply. It's already got a 6-month there, and that's where the short entry was for this. 2 months, monthly, and it's come back and it has tested. So this is actually hasn't quite hit the monthly demand in there, and I did have an alert lower, which obviously didn't come back for originally, so this was a 4-day demand. Obviously took off without coming back down there for me before. Okay, so we've got a monthly demand there. It's come straight back up into 6 monthly supply, so again, not something that I'd be particularly inclined to look for longs on. 3 months, 2 months. There's too much chop in that zone. I like the lack of clarity in here. And there's sort of these indirect levels to be putting new shorts on. And that's probably why, obviously, I've made the decision to have the next potential breakout entry as if it went all the way up there. Bitcoin's coming down again. And again, 5-day supply on this. So we already had, so let's actually, we can look at this a bit more closely. So I guess that would have been probably a weekly supply that, yeah, so this was maybe a 2-week. No, weekly supply. So obviously I had this alert as the weekly supply here. It's gone run through into 2-week/6 month supply up here. And then it has had quite a nice reaction down to there. It's come back for quite an aggressive retest, and now it's come back down properly into demand. So again, this candle is already tested at 5-day, just about. This is not high probability. Let me put a comment on it saying coming from 6M supply. It's not a particularly high probability. Now the problem I have here is that, so this supply has come down, so we've already found support here. This supply is not the first test of that level, and it's obviously it's gone back up and gone higher. It's made a new demand, it's got a bounce, and now it's come back down lower. So longs for down there, but this is not something I don't really want to short this when it's so close to monthly demand, I don't think. Hopefully I haven't contradicted myself saying that on one of the previous analyses. So while I'm inclined to look for shorts because it's 6 months supply at the high, like obviously we've had that rejection, but it hasn't, you know, it's come back strong off that. It's a tentative one. Yeah, with the way the structure is, like I'm again taking out those lows there. I wonder if it's just going to take out some of these highs, or even go up and take out those highs before rejecting and potentially go higher into this zone. So I might leave that one alone. I'll leave this as a, you know, a risky long possibility in down below, but don't want to be looking for shorts on this when it's just hitting monthly demand there. Phil, am I even halfway through my list? I don't even think I am. Maybe I'll try and get down to HBAR and then do the rest more. HNT maybe, so I'll do, what's that, like 6 more. And then do the rest tomorrow because I'm going to start to get really tired soon. 6 months, 3 months. So look, so annual isn't going to give me anything. 6 months, no. 3 months. 3 months, so it's a poor 3 month demand in there. It's still in a range. It hasn't reacted well and it's just staying, so we're coming down just heavy in the range, and this is an alert which obviously it hasn't quite hit down there, and I've got an alert up here, 2 week supply, 1 month and 1 year inside. So another pointless alert coming. Do you not feel like your life is like governed by horrible alerts on phones and things? I try and turn most of them off and they just drive me absolutely around the bend a lot of the time. Okay, so this is more interesting. So we had a 3 month supply in here and it has wicked through it, but this hasn't come down and taken out any lows yet. So actually my target is probably all the way down here. And I don't have an alert on that at the moment because I've moved it up. But that's just been an interesting one to watch. So I've got an alert here for 2 week. It's just a bit choppy on this, so there's a monthly and there's a 2 week. But it hasn't quite gone off there. Actually, there's not a weekly demand. I don't know why that's actually marked as a weekly. I want to mess that up, so that's a 5-day. Update my colours. 3-day. Or 5-day, should I say? 5-day supply. So I mean, again, this is just like a sideways range, and there's nothing, you know, indicating that this is going to break out at the moment. The monthly demand is solid, so I guess something like this, what we're looking at now, you know, is if we are going to have eventually, I mean, at some point you would like to think we're going to have breakouts of these accumulation ranges, but they could go up or down. But on the more bullish side of it is at least it's had a monthly consolidation accumulation here. It's having a lot more consolidation accumulation than distribution. We're heating back on. So I think it's worth looking at some of these in case we are going to get that bigger all-season type move. And certainly something like this, while it's in that, it's got that 3 month and it's wick through the 3 month, you know, it does have a bit of space to the next decent supply here. It's hit it multiple times. So this is something I'd be more inclined to think could turn bullish and go up to much higher levels. But then again, on the short time frames, it becomes difficult. Analysis paralysis, you know, you've got the swing failure here, so you would want a swing failure down the bottom. You did get it here. So that demand wasn't strong enough to fully break supply, but we've come down to lower demand. So that could be strong enough to break supply, but isn't as yet. So do I want to short that? The question that I'm asking myself is, do I want to short this 5-day supply? And when it's really just a triangle, again, a triangle kind of structure. Just need to see what the reaction is off there, basically. But again, I'm less inclined to, I think, similar to one of the others I've said previously as well, this is when this is not coming off a real significant supply up here, I'm less inclined to go for the lower high. So on this one, I think I'll leave it and not go for that lower high. Flow, I have 2 flows. I'm just using different ones for different reasons. That goes to 2022. Okay, so this has a lot more history on it. Oh, I think, yeah, that's why. So yeah, HTX has a lot more history, but HTX, because of the time difference I guess, where is this? Where's HTX? Is it Hong Kong? I don't know. I'm assuming it's somewhere that's OB. Is it Hong Kong or is it China? I'm not sure. But yeah, the what you see is because of the time difference, the candle closes are different. And I don't think the cause is a massive issue, but you can lose some of the precision if your candles are closing at different levels, and you can sort of become then debatable as to whether you see a breakout versus if you look at the US dollar pair, does that same zone exist? So obviously I haven't updated this for a while. Also, I quite like looking at it on a different time frame occasionally, because then I can sometimes I can just see a bit better when I don't have my 8 million boxes. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got annual supply all the way up there that hasn't been tested. 6 months, I'm not going to create a 6 month by the looks of it. Did close above that 3 month there, but just rejected straight off the next 3 month supply. I really want to have that in there, but and the PA has just been quite difficult and choppy because we are following these sort of long extended accumulation ranges at the lows. Monthly demand, so this obviously has hit an alert already for monthly 3 week, 2 week, same as everything else demand down there. It came off 5 day at the high, so again just another triangle. Too many triangles. Did take stops off the lows here, then took stops off the highs there, so there aren't even really any. So it's already done the retest of it, took stops off the highs there, and then we just need to see if this monthly is going to hold. There's not really much I can add on this. And again, like if I put in, I don't really want to put just an alert up here on the annual just for the hell of it, because it might never get there, and then that's an alert that's wasted for however many years hiding up there while it's not being tested. Okay, do I want to alert the 5 day supply on this? This is one I am more inclined to do. I think, actually no, maybe not. So again, this has hit 3 week, 1 month demand, so I'm not going to alert the 5-day supply on this. I'm going to wait and see. Already tested locally on this weekly, so this could go up higher inside that weekly there and still maintain this 3-month downward structure. Oops. Let's see what this person thinks. From hype to reality check. I'm not really sure if that's a reality check. Saying it's gonna, what's that, 4 times in price. Somebody's done their Elliott waves anyway. That person's very bullish anyway. Shaka trade, whoever you are. Maybe you're right. And again, it's hit monthly demand. You know, if this makes a daily or something like that you want to look for longs in, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just be conscious of the 5-day supply above, is all I can say on that one. And there's not really any other alerts I want to add to that at the moment. No, I'm going to leave flow alone. GALA. Quite similar to flow, really, isn't it? So again, hit 5-day supply at the highs here. Got monthly all the way up there, but you know, again, this hasn't come down too deep. So this is kind of why I say that I think, you know, alts could have further lower to go. And what concerns me, I think, when you've got the flows and things like that have already hit this zone. So we're going to have, I mean, yes, they're moving a lot more independently than they have done previously. But we're either going to see, you know, we do tend to still have the market move together. So are these going to retrace, and then this is going to either break down from here or just come lower in the zone? While something like GALA, which hasn't hit that zone, is that going to go up and come back down? So, or is it just bounced higher? I guess is the other consideration. Okay, so potentially we're going to get a 6-month demand on this, so that's an interesting one. I want to draw the whole thing in now. Gosh, I'm seriously tired at the moment. I think winter makes me very tired. I think we need to go and have my vitamin D checked, because maybe I'm becoming vitamin D deficient now, being in Portugal rather than in Australia. Yeah, so you see here, it's you know, what we can find is that they pick up levels before the levels have actually confirmed. So this wick has come down and is using that 6 month as support, or potentially. So means it's impossible in this case that it's not going to come lower. What that was, maybe that's 3 weeks, just a bit too messy down there. So this again, you know, again we have the other challenge on this, that is it using this 6 months of support already, and if that's the case, is it just suddenly going to go to the moon? Or is that just people FOMOing in a bit too early, and we're actually going to come up and hit 5-day supply and come back down properly into monthly demand before the move up? And again, you know, this is not a strong monthly demand, it hasn't broken the previous high, but a third wave could. So I'm okay with leaving the long entry there, and also on this I'm okay with having a short entry, possibly a possible short entry in the 5-day supply above, because I think it still could go up, reject here for another wave down into these zones before potentially that bigger move up. And again, overarchingly, you know, we are still giant range, maybe giant head and shoulders to be fair, but we are still under that breakdown level. So it's something to watch on this because of that inverse head and shoulders. You know, maybe it won't come down on here, but maybe this will fail dismally. We shall see. Remains to be seen. But as I say, I'm only putting alerts on, isn't it? It's up to anybody if they want to trade them. GRT, I haven't updated for a while apparently. Okay. So, where are we? 12 months. So it's up again. It's in a yearly supply. It's come quite high into that. 6 months is not going to make anything new. 3 months. So it's already come down quite deep inside that 3 month demand. 2 months, nothing new, monthly. Okay, so another slightly dubious monthly demand in here. So the other thing I don't love with monthlies, or with any demand or any supply, is you don't really want it to test on the immediate candle afterwards. Preference is that it has another couple of candles and then tests a rounded retest, rather than immediate retest. They're much more likely to fail. I don't know why that's the case, but I guess because it's just thrown one candle straight back up, and if it's sold off that quickly straight back down, then it's not necessarily going to be a strong zone. So we have the monthly in there that wasn't quite tapped. We have a 3 week which was, 2 week a little bit lower. So this could still have maybe a little bit of a drift lower. Also got a yearly level in here apparently. Oh yeah, that's the level of the yearly. Dubious yearly level because it's when the price opened. Have a look what's going on here. Some bull zones here that can be deleted. Sometimes the layouts get left behind and they don't update on all the layouts, so I have to update. You know, like if I change the zones from dash lines to whole full lines. Dash lines are when they're unconfirmed or when they're indirect. So there's 3 months, 2 months a little bit higher, monthly, I don't know, it's kind of held up, but I don't know if I really need that level in there. So this is a slightly more interesting chart, but again, annual supply. So you know it's already come up into annual supply and it's rejected down to here. So it could make a lower high and go lower now, and or could break down. You know, this is, again, we're looking at, what have we got here? So we've got that, looking at waves down. We have broken that one and we're just up in the next supply. So is this uptrend going to continue here? Go up to the next supply? Or is this going to play out in the context of the annual to make a new low? Oops. Let me think, and in fact, in this case, this monthly actually hasn't broken. So again, yeah, that's one I'm less inclined to look for a long on this. I will put, I have an alert up here in case it does go higher, but I'm not necessarily bullish for this to go all the way up there. But I'll have the alert, you know, like I say, just in case we do get a breakout. So it's possible we come off here now and go up and take this monthly supply out, but it would be higher probability if this wick had already taken out monthly supply, which it hasn't. And then because of the annual, that makes me slightly more bearish on this, so I'm less inclined to put a long entry or to look for longs in here. You know, I can see that level while I had an alert there. Obviously that monthly level there wasn't quite tapped. It's not a perfect monthly because again it's got a bit of a gap on it, but so I'm going to put that long entry back. So it's either there or it's potentially looking at the 1 month long look for swing failure of previous low or possibly weekly base. So yeah, there's kind of 2 options. If you see a zone that hasn't been gone on to, oh no, I feel like my keyboard's gone Portuguese. That blue screen of death has turn my whole computer crazy. Look for swing failure previous level, possible weekly at the base. So again, like with something like this, if you see it's not tapped properly, that means it possibly could come back, and then you could get a nice easy entry if it swing fails that low. If there's another zone deeper inside it which hasn't been tested, it's also possible it goes down there. So this is something that I would like potentially first port of call would be to look at swing fail here. Second port of call, and it's not much lower, would be around 91 or inside this lower zone. So again, we'll see. And I guess I'll reiterate, like all of these which have hit these sort of 3 week, 2 week, 1 month demands, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you looking for long entries based on daily charts and daily breaks of structure and things like that at the moment. And similarly, if you're bearish on the market as a whole, these 5-day supplies, short any of them, and that's your hedge if you think the whole market's going to die. So this one I'm going to leave. I actually do have another alert in there still. Again, it's a 5-day supply that could be shorted. I'm going to leave it alone because of the fact we've got this, this weekly is untested in here. I'm going to delete that one now. Because I think that's why I hadn't alerted this previously. I think I thought it could go up into this weekly in here. So again, this might get a bounce off the monthly into the weekly, potentially not take out the high, and then come down for this. But there's kind of equal highs, borderline equal highs there. Well, that's taken out stops from that wick, but yeah, slightly more challenging one there. But again, yet another godforsaken triangle structure. This one's slightly more bullish, at least with the uptrend coming in, but again, what you're seeing on these sorts of things, that again, it's this, but it's this, and then it's a full retrace. It's retracing back into this wave, so this is still very corrective. And with a lower high here, like if that had gone into there, then sure, even if it's corrective, you can still look for longs for the next move up. But with this rejection here, it just makes it slightly more challenging to know whether you're going to get that bounce in here for the second move or not. And the fact, if this is a monthly, that's why I'm more inclined with most of them, or with a lot of them, to put long entries in there, because they're monthlies. If they're weeklies, I'd be much less confident. But yeah, these moves I still do think are quite corrective. They're coming down. It's coming down well within to the top of that range. And then it's that lower high. So again here, like if we compare to here, so we've got this rejection there. So yes, that could be similar to this circle, where it then does that second push later. But that's the what do you call it? The $24 million question, $64 million question. But yeah, anyway, so we'll see what the weekly does up here, because again, that's another test of the monthly supply in there, and then there's a 3-month up there if it does run through. Okay, 2 more, 715, wow. HBAR went crazy. Okay, so nice at least in this first set to have had like some example of something that's more bullish. So you've seen a lot of the ones that I've looked at. Actually, and I can see if this has run through things. A lot of the ones I've looked at, had that annual supply. Here we're slightly different. We've actually had an annual demand. Didn't hit it. Well, the annual, yes. And this is why I'm so acutely aware, what's going to put in an annual demand at the end of this year, because it does really make a difference. And you'll see if you look at, I don't know, BLZ and TRB, like those big gainers that we had last year, or was it the year before now, or earlier this year. They're a lot of the ones that came off these major demands here. So again, you've got this coming off a 6 month at the low. So sometimes they'll throw you off by being, and I think this really did throw me off, because I think this had, okay, so this is going to make a 6 monthly demand. I think this had a 3-month supply or something, so it did kind of throw me off, and some of the structures did throw me off a bit. But again, this is why you should always do the top-down analysis and be aware, think where things are coming from and where things are going to, or take that out. This is very simple on the 6-month chart. 6-month demand in here, giant move off it. Takes 2 years to do it. So, you know, it hit there, that's the July 2022 candle, so it hit there and it closed down there, so the end of July 2022, you know, so it's taken, what, 2 years to do this. But you need to be aware of where things are coming from, where they're going to. You know, I think what I really didn't like about this is while I was aware it had come off the 6-month demand, this was just horrible. You know, it came really, really deep inside. But again, that can happen. Things, you know, they don't have to bounce immediately when you want them to bounce. So this is now in a 3-month supply up here. So it's got a monthly down here that wasn't tested, but obviously, look, if we're going to have a 6-month, then I'm going to have a 6-month entry in here, or 6-month alert in here. Excuse me. So we've got a 6-month in there. You know, it's okay, so obviously I've had the alert here for the 3-month supply, but it's come up significantly higher inside it. It's hit that 3-week at the top there. Move that out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. So is this going to break out? Very possibly. So again, yeah, like I say, it's something that's coming off 6-month demand at the lows. Obviously, we expect this to break out. Whether it's going to retrace in between, I don't know. And to buy up here is really not something I want to be doing. So I'd really like to see a significant retrace on this, or, you know, either into this 6 months down here, or even just more aggressively. But you just still don't want to be buying while it's floating up here. You know, even after the, you know, when it's doing these. Ideally, it will still give you a demand like over here to enter on. And again, this is another one that also has that 5-day supply. So yeah, this US legislation is obviously I don't even know if the legislation has been passed. Is this just still, is this rumour or is this fact? Not really sure. This is potentially a short now for me. So you can look at shorts on that if you want to. Leave that alert there for the 6 month. But it's not, again, I don't love it because it hasn't got anything at the level. Okay, I'm still only on the 4-day chart unless there's something on the daily or something in there, but it's ideally you want something at the level. When it's done a move like this. But it's still worth considering, so I'm going to leave that like that. And do I want to alert this 4-day here? Probably, just in case it does something more aggressive. So, while I don't really want to waste my alerts, well, I don't want to waste my alerts, so I'm actually going to bring this alert up to here. Four-day, 3-day demand. So this is going to be your, you know, this is the aggressive entry. Even if it comes back and tests there. So hopefully we're going to get something like this, you know, where it takes some time moving down, consolidating, and then get that bigger move up. Failing that, you're looking at the 6 months down here. And like I say, there is a potential short around now if you're watching structure. Yeah, so even going down to the daily, there is nothing at this 6 month level on the daily. It looks like there will be something on the 12-hour. Yeah, so there's a 12-hour demand in there. So again, probably a little bit low time frame if it does come down quite heavily, unless there's a fib there as well. That's the other, obviously the other consideration, like I've said. Let's just fib that move. Yeah, so that'd be the 61 to 70 fib, so that's like a reasonable entry if it comes back down into here. Oh, actually I was supposed to be looking at the 6 month fib that was there. Oh yeah, so the 61 to 70 on the linear, on the log fib, and This one is a 61 on the linear fib. So both of those are possible entries if it revisits. And now is still a possible short, and then I will also, from the short side, alert all-time high. If my computer wants to load. That blue screen of death really concerns me. So I hope my computer doesn't like last until the end of the guarantee, which is I think March, and then give up the ghost. So yeah, I'll put an alert on all-time high there in case, you know, it's going to get, you know, oops, if we go up there and it gets like a swing fail or something off that high. That's a really nice strong move, and again, yeah, so like I say, you see that 6-month demand kind of playing out. It just takes a really long time to do it, but yeah, this was the real problem, that this just came down so much deeper. And I think I was looking at that point on the lower time frames, I was looking at this, and yeah, I had this what now looks stupid in hindsight short entry, but I think, you know, obviously there was a 3-day supply in there. I think there might have been a monthly supply in here, so I was like, no, I'm hoping now it goes down and retests back onto this zone, or taking out that low, but it just decided to take off instead, and these things happen. And finally, HNT. Another one that's looking a little bit stronger. Yeah. So again, this is obviously back in annual demand at the lows. Annual demand, so again, you can see it's had a decent move off, but you know, if we're still looking for this annual demand to play out, then the target of that should be taking out this high. So this is something, you know, on annual basis you're long biased on. If it gives a 6-month demand, great, but may or may not do that. I've obviously got the 3-month. It's made a 3-month by a hair there. 2 month. I think obviously you can see there that I've had an aggressive long entry on that that's not worked up here. Monthly. So this is not. It's just a bit choppy around here. 2 week. Weekly. Okay, so yeah, okay, so we did have, yeah, I just need to see how this is going to close really with, so we're still in this 3-week supply here, which obviously I've hidden. Yeah, so what I really want to see on this one then is that whether this is going to close as a 6-month demand. I want this candle to close ideally quite a lot above there, not just a hair above it, but that's something to look out for. Then, so my computer's starting to get weary, so might need a break. Yeah, so okay, we had a 5-day demand up here, so I think I put the aggressive entry in just in case. I didn't put many in, I just put a couple of aggressive ones, because if the market did keep going, it's always good to have some things alerted and ready to go. But obviously that one has failed, and it's come back down deeper, and it's in this sort of weekly. But this is obviously, we've got really nice long entries here and here. But again, this is more like a failed wave, so you know it's had a move up off this demand, and it's been unable to kind of significantly close above there. I'm still holding this 3-week supply. But again, like I don't want to be shorting this 5-day. I don't think, because of the 3-month and the possibility of the 6-month demand in here. So I think I might wait a little bit and see how this one closes in the next kind of week. Because yeah, I don't like the fact, I mean, while this is a really nice consolidation, it's unsurprising it's gone taken that out. Like, really, you would have wanted this to go out and take out that higher on this wave, given 3-month demand, given the retest of the weekly here. And the fact it hasn't is obviously showing either the strength of the sellers there, or just a general weakness, and it's sold off pretty hard down into there. It's the second sell-off. having taken the stops of the highs, taken stops of the lows. So there's no clean demand on that for me, and obviously I don't necessarily expect it to come all the way back down here, but there's no reason why. I mean, anything's possible. You know, it did have this breakout and hasn't tested down here, and there's 1 month, 2 month. I think that was just the aggressive entry, but 1 month, 2 month demand below. So again, that's just a bit too choppy in the local area, so I think I will leave that alone as well. If you really want to trade this, yeah, that 5-day supply is a possible short, but then from the long side, you know, it's on the daily, like this is tested twice, so then I'd expect to look for lower zones, and it looks like there's a 12-hour in there. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. Oops. It's a possibility if it comes down and takes out this low, but it's just, the difficulty here is just this giant move up. You know, is it going to just bounce off this 12-hour at the top here, or is it going to want to retrace some of this wick? It's obviously quite volatile, but I might, yeah, and I'll put an entry, I'll put an alert there anyway, and just then we can just see what happens when it gets there, if it gets there. But yeah, so my preference would be, if this hits, is for this to have confirmed as a 6 month, to have, you know, some close up here by the end of the year. My computer's been very slow now, so maybe it needs a break as well as my voice. Quite clean. You know, this could pick up support now. Yeah, but it's too choppy. This is just something I don't really want to trade. And it's nothing. It's not clean enough, and you can see it likes choppy PA anyway. But just that sell-off is just a bit too hard when we compare it to this sell-off. So either way, you know, maybe something for a little bit more like that, just to show that consolidation rather than just a volatile, everybody getting in and out kind of move. Or wait for that test back, just taking out that low, and then again you can just trade that as a swing failure. And failing that, and really only if it creates 6 month demand in here. Okay, anyway, I've got down to HNT, which may or may not be half the list, borderline half the list. So my voice is going dismally, and so hopefully I'll have a bit more time tomorrow. Well, it's the 24th tomorrow, actually, it's Christmas Eve, but yeah, actually we'll have a bit more time tomorrow. So I'll try and finish this then, and then I'll try and do more streams. I'll do a stream at the end of the year anyway on with all these 6 month and 1 year. Maybe I'll do that, a silent stream on that, where I literally go through my list of however many 600. Let's see, how many do we have on the blue list? 611 on the blue list. So I have 611 charts I need to put in new monthly, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 6 month, and 1 year zones by the end of this year. So maybe I'll just do a silent stream for the first week of January or something, where I update all of those and then just see overall where I think the market's going to go. But yeah, anyway, I hope that's a little bit educational on that one, so hopefully that's of some use to you. Yeah, please let me know if you have any questions in the channel. If you want access to the alerts, then just contact me. I might be able to do you some kind of deal. You can either use a premium bot if you just want to pay, or yeah, if you're happy to sign up with my referral link or something like that, then I can probably look at giving you access through that mechanism. So just PM me if you're interested. And I hope that's of some help. Yeah, have a good Christmas if I don't see you before then.